Hi, class. Let's start chapter 5, and we'll come back to this uh, uh, class, chapter 5. Now, without further ado, I will start. Now, it's section 2 from idea to opportunity. It's chapter 5, identifying and analyzing domestic and international opportunity. And I believe now you finish almost done with the assignment. So that could be, refreshing some part of it, and some of it is reinforcing the information that you have. So in this chapter, we'll be talking about, just a second, we'll be more, as an introduction, in order to expand to a venture, an entrepreneur should identify opportunity for a domestic and international expansion. So we said that entrepreneur cannot be an entrepreneur without identifying an opportunity and having an idea to follow. The distinguish between foreigner and domestic market is becoming less, pronounced. And the pressure to internationalize is being felt by virtually every organization, including entrepreneurship one. So all the companies wants to be internationalized, they want to export, and they want to deal worldwide. Here's what comes to the opportunity assessment plan. The key is to a profitable domestic and international venture is to develop, as we said, an idea that has a large and reachable market. Now, an opportunity assessment plan is, keep in mind, as we said, is different than a business plan and is different than marketing plan. It is shorter than a business plan and is mostly focused on the opportunity, not the venture. So there is an opportunity on so and so to import or export or such services. The plan has no pro forma financial statement, so there is no financial statement that you need to do. And it is the base of a decision to act on an opportunity or wait. So with this one, you would know whether you should go for this opportunity or wait. So an opportunity assessment plan usually has 4 sections, 2 of them major section and 2 is minor section, which is we're gonna explain here in this chapter. The opportunity assessment plan major sections are the first major section, a description of a product or a service. The market need for that product or the service, a specific aspect of the product or service, what kind of makes it special, what kind of aspect in it makes it special. The product currently filling the need, features, and the prices. So you're going to bring a new product or you're going to export a new product or services. What currently is the market has. So that makes you're going to bring then. So currently, what's what kind of filling the need, what kind of a need, and what the features and what's the prices. You do competitive companies in the industry, so you can check how competitive are the industry itself. And if there is a unique selling propositions of the product, if there is a special pinch pitch that you're going to do for selling this product. As we said, most important thing is selling this product or services. So if you don't have a unique, you have to develop a unique selling proposition. The second major section, which is include the following: the market need filled, whether they being filled with less competitive product, less sophisticated services, or a similar that you need to compete with them. You need to look at the social condition underlying the market need. What kind of a social conditions? Are the people are willing to accept it? Are they willing to be educated? Is it need so much education that the people are willing to educate it, or people will have a social need for it? Any available data to describe this market need? If you can dig in, and we will talk about places that we can dig in to find out these data. Very important, the size, the trend, whether it's going to be there, what kind of a trend, and we talked about the trends in the last chapter, the characteristics of the market. So the size of the market is important, the characteristics, the trend in the market, because for example, in North America is very sensitive toward everything going greenish. That's not applicable in some countries in Africa, for example. And the growth of the market, whether is there is a growth in the market, or there is really in a stable growth or declining. For example, typewriters are declining, fax machines are declining. So there is could be, if there is a growth or a stable or declining, is very important. Now, the other two sections, which is a third section, answers the following questions, which is the minor one. Why does this opportunity excite you or makes it important? How does this product or idea fit into your background and experience? As we said, your background of education and experience will help you so much in having a successful idea and successful ventures. So how does this fit you? What business skills do you have? What business skills are needed? So you need to evaluate the gaps. And do you know some who has these skills? Now you want to make sure when you need these skills that you don't have, or not having enough, is it available? Because if you don't have enough skills, doesn't matter what kind of product it is, it's not going to be flying. And the final section is the timeline, focusing on the following. You know, it's a windows of opportunity, so there is a timeline for it. First, you need to identify each step, identifying each step when you're going to do your idea, when you're going to do a qualification, when you're going to do a marketing plan, when you're going to do a business plan, when you're going to, if you need them, ventures, when you're applying. So you need to identifying each step, determine the sequence of the activities, because you cannot walk to a bank and says, I have a business plan. I don't have a business plan, but I need money, and I think it's going to be do X and Y and Z. They will ask you a written business plan, or even the investor. So you need to determine the sequence of the activities, identifying what is accomplished in each step. So the sequence of activities and what's supposed to be accomplished, and when you can start the next step. Is it dependent on the previous one, or can be done separately? Then determining the time and money needed at each step, if there is a money needed, and determining the total time and money needed. So each step is different than the total, and identify the source needed money. I have a friend of mine who's a lawyer, where he's a partner with somebody who they help people to come to migrate to Canada, and they partner based on he help people, investors to come in, but usually the investors don't have a business plan. And he calls on his partner, which is also charged, I think, around $2,000 for every business plan or something like that. And he meets these investors and try to prepare a business plan in order to be submitted to the immigration to accept this person to come into this country. So understanding a business plan could be a very profitable thing also. Now, information sources, where I get my information, for example, when you're trying to do a business plan, to do the ID, to establish the qualification and all these things. There's lots of bodies that you can begin to find out. One of them is CORE, is a nonprofit providing a free online and in-person assistance through a training, consulting, and mentoring. Now, there is available same bodies here in Canada. You can find similar to them. There's also called the Small Business Development Centers, which is provide also consulting, training, and technical assistance when you're starting a new venture. The general information sources include Chamber of Commerce and cities' Chamber of Commerce and provinces' Chamber of Commerce. You need to know where you can get your sources, whether it's cash, whether the legal assistant, whether it's business assistant. There's all type of organization available, especially in case of you trying to export something. Many other valuable websites include the Small Business Investor Alliance, National Venture Capital Association, and the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. These are available in the States and also available in Canada. The other thing you want to know is the industry and market information. Plunkett provide industry data, market research, trend, and some statistical on market and forecasting. They can, get you this information. There is a Frost and Sullivan, yes, provide a very specific industries, and I have them so you can click on them. And it takes you there to find out if you're serious about doing your ventures. And there is a Euro Monitors, which is provide information on companies and brands, as well as the consumer size, market size, and the marketing parameters. It's important that when you do your business plans, you clear the idea of the market consumer size. We'll talk about it later on, and the market parameters, which is we already spoke about it in the last chapter. And my favorite one is Gartner, which that's what I use usually, and it's provide information on technology market. They're not into the international every commodities. They are into technology because I was involved in lots in technology. Gartner also used to give us a call, and I was in charge of dealing with Gartner, giving them information on Middle East technology trend and market. They will call everybody's, they will have people calling, and then they collect information and they get it ready. Sometimes they charge for it. The introduction of these information, they don't charge for it. So also Gartner, if you're involved in the market technology, the technology market is a good one. And there is a GAL directory library, which is provides industry statistic and a directory of nonprofit organization and association. Then you need to look at competitive companies and product information. The places that you can look at it is the Business Source Complete, has company and industry information there, data monitor reports, which is, it does based on their industries. There is something called Hoover's, And they're usually established by nonprofit or NGOs or by the government. And it provides information on a large and small companies with the link of competitors in North America. When you click there, you will see they will give you a certain section. You have to know the section that you are looking for it. And once it will give you the competitive information. And we will talk about NAICS later on and how you categorize these stuff. And it's also applicable in Canada, by the way. The merchant has detailed company owner product information on US and international companies. And usually whatever is most of the goods that are available in Canada, available in US. So it's a good idea to look at the both market if you're thinking of importing or importing, because you start in Canada and then you move on to USA, and both is a very lucrative and large market. Now, there is a government source and other information source. Like the government source is Census Canada, because they do lots of census, people where they move from where, their age, their sectors, and all these. And there is a export import, I think IBD, International Business Development, and Canada is very good for this. It's a charge of export and import. And as we said, there is NICS and SIC, which is codes. You need to put the SIC code, which is they will find you the sector, and they will give you the names of the companies, the competitive, who's competing with you on this thing. It's good for to get together all these information when you're doing a business plan, because you need to look very assured about your market that you are targeting. Now, use search engine and pair of the key terms to find a general online information. YouTube can help. There is Wikipedia also can help. All these can help you to gather more information. Some trade associations do market surveys and are involved in the international standards. You can also see these issues. There is a trade publication provide interesting information. Maybe if you get more deeper and deeper, they will give you the trend, the companies, the market condition, and the trade shows that are available. Trade shows can help so much. Try to attend some trade shows, because there's always a good trade shows in Ontario and in Toronto that you always can attend the trade shows. It's a good place to start your venture, because most of these company comes in here, they're trying to allocate a partner or allocate somebody who can help them to get into this market. The international trade shows also outside also can help so much. So the nature and the importance of the international business. Why the international business? And there is the important course called IBM, or International Business. I teach it also, and it's about the international entrepreneurship is in the process of conducting business across international boundaries. The world is your market. So the more you feel pressure in this market, you have one of the options: fight it off and take the risk, or expand somewhere and let everybody chase you. And that's the best strategy that I have. I just keep expanding and just one step ahead of the competition. It may consist of exporting this international business. It may consist of exporting, licensing, or opening a sales office in another countries. I know a few very rich businessmen now, they started with a licensing, and they're licensing. Like imagine I used to work with two ladies who their father passed away, but he signed with Oracle as their authority, body of authority and licensing for whole Kuwait. And Oracle is the highest sell of software, ERP softwares, and worldwide. Microsoft comes third there. So imagine this person out of nowhere, he's getting 10% to 15% of the sales just as a partner representative. Um, so the U.S. is usually is a relative to newcomers to the international business because they're a new country. The usually foreigner investors came in, like Britain and France, especially Britain, came and helped in building the industries, and the future commercialize of US depend on the entrepreneur success in a market outside the US. So you see, these two countries are built by foreigners and mostly built by British, and now they are kind of one of the top producers in the world, and they also look forward to have two things: one, to export, and second, there's so much space to invest to do business here. So you have your hand is so much open, and in the international business is important to firms of all size. So you can have a small business and small firms and do the business internationally, or you can have a big one and do the business internationally. So the successful entrepreneurs understand how international business differs from the domestic business and respond accordingly. In the few next slide, we will be talking about the differences that in the international business versus the domestic business. Keep in mind there is lots of business people are willing to do the export, but they don't have the time through going through that headache. So if you're there to save them that headache, they would be glad to do business with you. Now, as we said, there is international and domestic entrepreneurship. In the things that makes it different between them is the fact that um, all entrepreneurs are cost oriented and concerns about cost, concerned about sales, concerned about profit. So what variety is the relative importance of the factor? Is it the cost, sales, profit? Which one is more important? Now, the decision are complex due to the uncontrollable factors. And if you can conduct a pest analysis, is useful when you're exploring an international business opportunity. And PES stand for political, economic, social, and technical. The political public policies, who influences the policymakers, there if there is a war, stabilizations, how they help the investors, any incentive, and whether there is a government stabilities. The economics is how much is taxation, the level of taxation, the monetary policy that they have, the distributions, and the trend that in that country. The social is the language, the psychographics, the ethnics, and the major events that's happening in there. And you got the technical is, which is the technology variety by country and product should reflect the country, whether there is a good infrastructure, whether the good transportations, communication, all these, the technical base for these things. So that's where you look at the international market and international entrepreneur. So when we are looking at the culture part And the culture usually refers to the common ways of thinking and behaving. There is lots of definition, but that's the very simple definition for it. And how the people, the common way of people are thinking and behaving. Like, for example, timing is very important in Canada, but if you are late a little bit in Middle East, it's fine. In India, it's fine. So they do respect the time. There, if you come on time or early means and secure. So the culture makes a big difference here. You need to know the culture. The culture is about a learned behavior, identifying an individual and society. There is taboos, there are things that you can be forgiven for it, and there is things, don't do it. So you have to know all these, separate these things from them. And the cultural aspect that may prove difficult include, you might have things that stops you from getting there. One of them is could be the language, the social structures, too many structures, or make it difficult to deal with whom. The religion itself, so selling alcohol in Saudi Arabia, for example, the politics, they just don't want to deal, USA don't want to deal with Iran and vice versa. The education level, so you cannot bring a very advanced product in a country that basically just started. And the manner and custom there, you need to take, and things that called aesthetics, which is the things that in general things, beauties and all, that is not essential, for example, in the culture. Now, available distribution systems. The distribution channels with the target country is, within the targeted country is a challenge. We spoke about, you look at the distribution channel. The distribution doesn't mean the trucks that's moving things around. It could be your partner who is in charge of distributing your product. That kind of is a challenge. You need to be successful in any export or import. You need to allocate the right distribution channels. To select the best distribution channels, you have to consider the following: the overall sales potential, whether how much potential of the sales you want to sell there. If it's really high, you need to look at, um, evaluate the distribution channels and pick the right one. A lousy distribution channel can make you fail very, very miserably. And the amount and type of competition there. So if it can help you to understand which kind of a distribution channel you're looking for. The cost of the product, the geography size, and the density of the country. Where is lots of population and where is the less population also can make a big difference. What's the investment policies of the country? You need to do the exchange rate and the monetary control, because if cannot have a way to get your money out, then you rather not to go in. And if there is a lot of this depreciation in the value of the dollars, their money, you rather not to be there also. The level of political risk, is there a war coming in? Is there a revolution? Is coup d'etats happening? How stable it is? And the overall marketing plan that you have. So these are the things that you're looking at when you do an international business. So why we have to go global? Terrible tea. Profit are usually the most significant reason to go for a global. There is no doubt about it. And because in Profitability is lowered due to the preparing to go global, understanding the estimating the cost involved and loss due to the mistake. So when you're going to a global, you need to underestimate, don't underestimate the cost involved in going global, and you might be losing bad, and that could be costing also. Sales to the market is another reason to go global. So the domestic market may be leveling off or even declining. So, you know, or you want to make more profit. So that's the reason you're going to to be going global. Entrepreneur may involve to international market to avoid industrial regulation or societal concerns about the product. Like, you know, lots of Nikes and, you know, international product, they go and do their, you know, they have a sweatshop in, for example, in Bangladesh or in Vietnam, and just to avoid the rules and regulation here. And according to the laws, maybe there does not consider to be something bad. Here is something that was really bad. The culture also helped in this matter. Big companies or companies probably looking for lowering the cost or because of the industry regulation and societal concerns about the product. When the entrepreneur's technology obsolete in the domestic market, there may be a sales opportunity for foreigners. There was a car made in Australia, and in the 1960s, I believe, Iran bought that whole manufacturing because it's going obsolete. And they did this business for 30 years in Iran, and now in that time, so Iran had this car when manufacturing is going also obsolete. So they sold the whole factory to Sudan. So this is sometimes it's happening because when technology is obsolete in the domestic market, there might be a sales opportunity in the foreign market. And also going global may take advantage of lower costs in the foreign country or better price in foreign countries, but in the lower costs in the foreign countries for labor, overhead, and materials. And I guess you guys know this very well. And the strategic effect of going global. What's the strategic effect for going global? Where, when you talk to a company, owners and managers, you need to present also the ideas, implement these ideas, show that ideas and part of your ideas. Is one major effect center of the concept of the firm's proximities to the firm's customer and ports. And we'll be talking the conceptual things here. Some factor can make a foreigner market that is geographically close seem psychologically distant. I mean, look at, for example, there is lots of predictions that they happens in Canada. And these people, the first thing they're thinking of it is exporting to USA. And most of them, after success in USA, because they are close to them, they don't think of Mexico, they think of UK. Because mentally they think UK is closer to them because of the languages, the culture, all these things. So that's what you call psychologically distance. Somebody asked me how come the Arabs don't travel as a tourist to Mexico. He asked me this question, and it was a good question because most of the Arabs travel to Europe and usually to UK, and they spend billions of dollars there. And the reason, the language. And they think Mexico is very far and it's different language and different culture, but they can manage the UK very well. So with movies, uh, exporting the culture, it can make it easier, such as action that probably India did is creating Bollywood, which has made it very interesting. So people start really understanding the culture of India. This is one of tools that help to establish businesses there. So the distant invasion by the entrepreneur may be more a matter of perception than reality. And your goal to bring that reality to the people who can help you in the entrepreneurship. Says it's a closer than you think. The closer psychologically proximity makes it easier to enter the market. And as we said, they don't think of Mexico, they think psychologically of UK in Canada to its second part of export. First thing they think of USA. And there is more similarity than difference between individual entrepreneurs, regardless of the country. You have to know all the entrepreneurs, there is so much in common between you as an entrepreneur from UK, from USA, from Canada, or from India. There's more similarities than really the difference between both of you. Now, when you do a foreign market selection, it's supposed to be based on the market selection on the past sale and competitive positioning, and assess rank each foreign market in alternatives. So you need to really see, you cannot just pick any country and export or import or establish business. You need to see how competitive is there and whether you need a competitive market or less competitive market. When it's a competitive market, there is a sign that the country is willing to accept you, but also there is a competition. Now, one method employs a 5 steps approach, which is for foreign market selection. First, you need to develop appropriate indicators, like the stabilities, the size of the population, the language. These are indicators. And then you need to collect, you say, I'm gonna export my product to people only speak English and to people who is in this continent, in this continent, for example. So these are develop and appropriate indicators. Then you collect the data and convert into a comparable indicator. So you have the indicators and you collect the data and see whether it's matching and how far is matching to these things. Then you establish an appropriate weight for each indicator. So the language, you can put it, give it 10, 8 out of 10. The religion, give it 5 out of 10. Uh, the dollar stabilities, give it 8 out of 10. This is kind of you weighted, and then you do analysis of the data. And then you select the market for the marketing ranking. Because if there's somebody asks you why you selected this country over that country to start your business or entrepreneurs, that you have a clear indication says, well, this country, I did this research and I put this indicators, and these are my indicators, and this is how I rank them according to the indicator, and this is the numbers that you collect to becomes from qualitative to a quantitative thing to assess. Now, entrepreneurial entry strategy. When you are trying to go internationally, there is different strategy you can do. Even international company, they have different strategy to do. One way is indirect exporting, which is involve the last amount of risk the least amount of risk, using an export management firm or purchasing office for a commodity. Somebody in the other country is willing to buy the things from you without you sending them there, and they will take care of everything. Then you have the indirect direct export, which is a through independent distributor or an overseas sales office. It requires a little financial commitment. So the company is overseas and you reach to them, but there is some commitment. So you get your money partially before you deliver the things, and once it's delivered, you get partially. So there is some financial commitment and there in it. And then you get the non-equity arrangement, which is you do a licensing like what they do, for example, in Oracle, Microsoft. Licensing is used where there is no intent to export or directly invest. So you just sell the license to somebody else who can do these products in their company. And then you have the turnkey project, as usually there are a lot happening in third world countries where your turnkey projects are facilitate built in a foreigner country and turn over the local owners for operation. Like now, the biggest one happening, and probably everybody was aware of it, is what Russia is doing in the nuclear plants in Iran, for example. That's the biggest thing. Canada have some understanding with US. They go and build a nuclear plant in US and build, operate, and then in foreign turn to over a local. And then you have the management contracts allow the entrepreneur to contract their management techniques and skills to a foreigner purchasing company. So somebody wants to establish a factory. They don't have the know-how, the people who can do that. So you outsource your people to them. It's on the skill base. And there is something called the direct foreign investment, which is when the ownership percentage hangs on the amount of money invested and the nature of the industry and the rules of the host government. So is when you are a foreigner and trying to invest in a different country, in other words. And this is big probably in China now, in USA, and in Canada also. The direct foreign investment minority interest allows an entrepreneur to gain a foothold or acquire experience in a market before committing. There was somebody in Abu Dhabi, his name 5%. His nickname is 5%. And the funny thing, this person 5% went and spoke with the French oil because the major oil industry in Abu Dhabi is partnering with France. And he spoke with them, and they said, "Well, if you take us into UAE, we'll give you a 5%." And they struck deals in Abu Dhabi, which is, a major billions of dollars of oil export yearly. And this gentleman gets 5%. So minority interest as an entrepreneur might be a huge one also. So if you say, big company says, I would take you in India, I'll get 2% or 1% or 5%. And strikes there is a huge or vice versa. Then you get the joint venture are used to purchase a local knowledge, for example, or an established facilities or when a rapid entry is needed. When you want to enter the market very quickly, you go the joint venture because they have already established market, established channels, and manpower. So it's very easy for you to quickly do that. And 50%. This is majority interest is purchase of 50% of more. That's what you call the majority interest, where the decision based on that also. So the mergers are often usually difficult to assess. When you do mergers, different companies merge together, is difficult to assess, but it's also it's a good field for entrepreneur to work on it also. You have the horizontal mergers, which are motivated by the economy of scales. Different companies, they will be mergers, and because they want to cover more locations, and sometimes this business in this part of the world, it goes down. So whatever they're producing, they can export it to that part where they have the merger thing. And then you have the vertical mergers, which is control over supply, because you're not sure whether the supply is supplying you and supply your competition and might increase the price. So you want to have the control over it. And in a product extension merger that acquires the firm has related activities. So they could be some kind of a common activity between both of you, like what's happened in, for example, National TV and Panasonic TVs. There is common activities and they joined, or Datsun and I think Toyota. They also did that. I'm not sure, but I know Datsun joined some. Nissan, they joined together and became a Nissan. Uh, and then you get a market extension mergers combine skills of the acquired firms. So they have good skills in the same kind of a firm. You can join each other. So it could be a local company would represent an IT service company in India. That's a merger. And a diversified activity mergers that acquired firm does not run a new company. So here is entrepreneurial partnering. And one of the best entry methods, as I always say that, is a partnering with an entrepreneur in the target company, target country. The foreigner partner who know the culture and can facilitate business transaction and keep the entrepreneur current on condition. So here's the people here in Canada or in India, say in Canada, they want to be exporting or they want to utilize an IT in India. So they might looking for a local people who can help them, and they're here. So that's one of the options that can be done. Now, let me say something. When you see me, I'm looking like this. I'm looking at the video, my picture, and unfortunately, the camera is here, so I have to look here. Anyway, the foreign partner know the culture and can facilitate the business transaction and keep the entrepreneur current on condition. A good partner can help the entrepreneur achieve their goals. That definitely sharing is very important in the business of entrepreneur. Because don't share for the sake of sharing. Sharing is when you do evaluation and find out that sharing is the only way to do it. It's important to do that. A good partner, because 1 + 1, as Ernest & Young put it, is equal with 3. Is not 1 + 1 equal with 2. So a good partner should share the entrepreneur's vision and will be unlikely to exploit the partnership for their own benefit. So if you find a partner that's just willing to do business with anybody and anyone, you need to stay away because you need somebody who really share the vision with you. Now, there is some aspects, some information you might want to know about international trade. There is was something called GATT, which is the General Agreement of Tariffs uh, and Trade. And before, after that, okay, world trade tradings happen. So it is GATT is a multinational agreement liberalizing or monitoring in a way the trade by eliminating tariffs, subsidies, and import quotas. There's other ones is called, for example, trade agreement and free trade areas, which is we have something called FTA, which is free trade area, exists between US and Israel and between US and Canada. That started a long time ago. Then it's moved to NAFTA. FTA moved to NAFTA, which is North American Free Trade Agreement. That was around 25 years ago during Brian Mulroney's time. The North American Free Trade Agreement reduce the barriers and encourage investment. And the countries involved in it so far that I know is Canada, USA, Mexico, and Chile. And then the Mercosur trade zone between the North and South American countries. There is the Trade Pacific Partners or TPP, which is include US, Japan, Canada, any countries on the Pacific there. And then the well-known is EC, which is the European Community, which is encourage the supranational. There is no borders between these countries. If you went to Europe, you would notice that there used to be a border. There's no more borders anymore. Now, entrepreneur strategy and trade barriers. Trade barriers pose a problem as they increase the cost of exporting. So an entrepreneur can use these barriers to its own benefit also. It doesn't mean can stop you from doing your business. There are trade barriers such as the voluntary export restriction may limit the ability to sell the product in a country from production facility outside the country. For example, saffron, you're not allowed to take more than, I think, 1 kilo each time you're traveling from outside Iran. And if you know the saffron, probably each kilo worth of around 18,000 US dollars. Probably you're aware of it. You're not allowed to take more than 2 Persian carpet out of Iran. These are kind of restrictions. The entrepreneur may have to locate, assemble, or facilities in a country to conform the local content regulation. So they might ask you to have the production done here. Let me give you a good example. The Canadian rules, if you're producing cars, 55% of it should be produced in Canada. And that will eliminate kind of an export duties to Canada, import duties. So all the Japanese cars came in and established their factories. And also the Americans, came here and established the factories. And first of all, there was a trade barrier between US and Japan. So, but the Canadian have this agreement between these two countries. So all the Japanese cars produced in BC or here also is gets for the local consumption and for US. And all the Americans' vehicles and motorcycles for Japan is also produced in Canada and export to Japan and South Korea. So this is one of the things that people, entrepreneur, can work out very well on that. The implication for the global entrepreneur, the culture, as we said, the political, the economic, and the distribution systems of the country influence whether this is attractiveness as a potential market and investment opportunities. So as we said, you know, America is very attractive for Canadians market, and Canadian market is very attractive for America. The second one for Canada, it doesn't come Mexico. It comes the UK, Ireland, Scotland, and Europe. Uh, the cost of political risk are lower in the countries more advanced economically and politically. And this is why you see lots of investment happening in Canada and US because they are economically and politically stable. And in less economically and politically stable and less ones, an entrepreneur will request more profit. In a long run, benefits are the country's future growth and expansion. So if you go into a country and they have a great growth and expansion, then it would be nice. It would be, you know, the people who invested in Hong Kong in early days or in South Korea in early days, now way advanced and very happy. So is the people who is invested in China. So by here, we end up the chapter 5 and back to the class.